Okay, so we're here with another Lacuna Passage devlog. This time we're going to be talking about the container system for inventory. And I'm actually here with Spencer, my brother, who's the lead artist on the project. And so we'll be discussing together some of the things we've been working on over the last month or so. So the inventory system that we've been working on, I showed in a previous video where it was still in progress, but I'll take a look at that here again. And Spencer has been helping me kind of determine what aspects of the design of the inventory screen UI need to be prioritized and changed around. So the first thing you'll notice is that we've kind of changed how the category and sort by methods are displayed. Previously, this was not a cycle. It was independent buttons for each type of category. And now it's a cycle so that we can actually map that to a controller button as well and cycle between those. And mapping most of these extraneous interactions in the inventory to their own independent controller button, I think, is going to be important for ease of use. But of course, everything on mouse and keyboard is accessible as well. And the biggest thing that we've now added is this container system that allows you to transfer items between your inventory and containers, or drop items and pick them back up. So I wanted to show Spencer some of this that we've been working on, and he hasn't seen this yet. So what we've got is a selection for dropping items. Obviously you can cancel out and not drop them if you don't want to, but for this item in particular, we've got this chemical concentrate. There's 5 of them in our inventory, and those large numbers that you see there are just the ID number for the item right now. Those will be replaced with inventory icons eventually. So that's just an identifier for us as we continue developing the inventory. So if I go in here and select to drop this item, it'll give me a quantity selection, and so I can select to drop only a few of them if I want. And when I confirm that, it'll ask me if I want to continue selecting items to drop, and I actually do. I want to drop a couple more things here, so I will drop 2 of the emergency pop tents, and then I will drop a first aid kit as well, and then I'll say I'm finished. And it'll close out on my data pad, and you'll see it drops down this little container with a label that says dropped items, and it says left click to view contents. So when we click on that, now you'll see at the top it says container to inventory. So we're currently looking at the contents of a container, and you can see here the 3 items that I dropped had 3 chemical concentrates, 2 emergency pop tents, and the first aid kit. And you'll see the only option we have down in the left-hand corner is the withdraw. So if I withdraw 3 of these and then close out, those will be back in my inventory now. And I could actually go in and drop those and create another dropped box. And these will be, obviously these are just placeholders for now, but those will be little containers that will have a 3D model associated with them. But now if I go into this one here, and since these are temporary containers, if I withdraw all the contents, that container disappears. So that's how we're currently planning to address dropping items in the game. And one of the reasons we're going to do it this way is it reduces the amount of development time spent creating individual 3D models for each little object that you could have in your inventory. So we'll have lots of materials and tiny objects that would have it would create a strain on us to make those 3D models, but eventually we may transition to making 3D models for every object to make it more similar to games like Skyrim or a few other games of that nature, where when you drop an item, it has an actual representation of the item you just dropped. But the important thing to remember for these dropped items is that if you leave this area, or if you enter a habitat, for example, any dropped items that you have on the ground will be destroyed. And I can demonstrate that here real quick. If we go into the habitat, and if it loads the interior, all the exterior terrain tiles are getting unloaded. And so now if we go back outside and load those back in, you'll find that the items that we just dropped are no longer there. So our little dropped containers are no longer here. Now, this container over here, this larger one that just says container, this is a representation of a permanent container that we'll have in the game where you'll be able to withdraw and deposit items into this as permanent storage that'll be saved during your gameplay. So if I click on this one, you'll see we already have 4 items in here with a few different quantities on some of them. And so if I withdraw all these, it'll close me out because it's empty, but I can go click on that again and it'll bring up my inventory, as you see at the top, to container. So now I can deposit items into that. So if I just go and deposit, let's say 4 of these flags, then those are no longer in my inventory, but if I hit tab, which currently that's what we have it mapped to for swapping, but if I hit tab, I can swap between the container withdrawal or inventory deposit. So you can see that in the top where it says inventory to container or container to inventory, and you can also see in the bottom left with the action buttons that the deposit and withdraw will swap back and forth. So we think it's a pretty logical way of displaying contents from containers and inventory and being able to swap between the two. And then one of the other kind of cool things here is this is a distance based to the container. So in the game, obviously the menu system is all able to be interacted with while you're moving around, but if you walk too far away from the container, it'll automatically close you out so that you can't somehow transfer magically from like half the map away to a container. And the way we also address that with dropping items is that, so let's say you're walking around and you want to work on your inventory management while you're moving around. If you choose to drop an item, and so let's say I want to drop all 4 of these emergency pop tents, as soon as I hit confirm, it's going to stop me moving because it's not going to, I don't want to be able to select multiple items to drop as I'm moving around, because as soon as I select an item to drop, it removes it from my inventory and my inventory weight goes down. So this would be kind of it would have been a exploit where you could potentially drop a bunch of items without completing the drop, and you wouldn't no longer be encumbered because you'd just be technically not have those items in your inventory anymore. So you're not able to move your body once you begin dropping items, but as soon as you're finished and it creates the object, then you're able to move around again. So yeah, that pretty much covers it. Spencer, did you have anything you wanted to add, or questions? Or, I mean, we're still in the middle of development, and this is the first time Spencer's seen some of these features, so we thought we'd just kind of talk about them a little bit and why we chose to do it this way, or if maybe Spencer has any changes he wants me to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen most of like the UI look to it, but this is kind of one of the first times I've seen it in action. So I really like how it's set up. I think it's neat with the deposit and withdrawal screens. A lot of games do it like that, and I think this game actually works really well to kind of separate those two menus. One thing I think I personally would like changed is actually what you were just talking about with the drop menu.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I'm convinced that dropping with confirming each drop and having to make sure you're finished with the drop so that you can package all your drops together into one container.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's necessary. I think it's one extra button click where you could instead just queue up drops, and as soon as you maybe exit the inventory or close your data pad, all of them drop.
Yeah, that is something I considered. I was trying to see if it would make sense to make a balance between that and informing the player that what they're doing is continuing. So, for example, when you start a drop, so let's say I start a drop here and I drop one of these and I hit confirm. Now, if this confirmation message did not come up, my concern was that the player might think that they had already dropped the item and they would be confused as to why they can't move, because the cursor would go back to your inventory icons and you wouldn't be able to move still, and you might not understand why it hasn't actually dropped yet. So I added this confirmation screen to hopefully make sure that the player understands that they either have to confirm being finished or continue dropping. And you'll notice when you hit continue, the only interaction option available for all items in your inventory is drop. But I can manually complete the drop just by closing out of the data pad. So it does create one without the confirmation message if I choose to just quit in the middle of browsing items to drop.
Okay.
But yeah, I wasn't sure if that would be completely clear to the player that they were still dropping items without a confirmation message.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I see the problem, but I'm also wondering if there's another way around it. With perhaps like, so, gosh, it's hard to visualize, but when you're dropping something, maybe having something come up saying, um, you know, items will drop when data pad closes. That sounds really stupid, but
Yeah.
envision it like that, and then having, I think you could still move then, right? Like, because if you queue it up and it doesn't actually drop, and then,
No, you can't move once you've selected to confirm dropping one item, because as soon as you hit confirm, like watch at the bottom of the screen there where it says total inventory weight. As soon as I hit confirm, my inventory weight goes way down because I just dropped a bunch of items, or I technically put them into a drop container. So what's happening right now is that let's say that your total inventory weight previous to dropping was over your encumbered weight. So if I had more than 50 kilograms of stuff in my inventory, when I just hit drop, it would have dropped me below the encumbered, and now I could walk at a normal speed. So I would effectively still be, if you want to think of it this way, I'd be dragging along a drop container that has all the same items that my inventory previously had, but I'm no longer encumbered because it's not technically in my inventory.
right? Yeah, I guess I kind of get that. I just thought if if it would make sense to queue things up for dropping and not actually remove them until you close your data pad.
Right.
But I see the problem there too, because then you're hitting a drop button and you haven't actually dropped it yet, so it's kind of
Right.
confusing. So maybe the way you have it's best for now, and then we'll have to find out
Yeah, we'll have
if
to find out from
actually.
people who watch the video here. What do you think? How do you like what we're doing with the inventory system? Do you think that the dropping system and the transferring to and from containers makes sense? We tried to consolidate as much as possible to make these interfaces kind of match each other. So everything looks very similar with all your item icons on the right and the descriptions on the left with the action buttons on the bottom left. So that stays consistent across whatever type of container, whether it's a temporary drop container or a permanent container that you're selecting items from. So yeah, let us know what you think. And there was one last thing I did want to show, and this is not as well developed yet, but if we go back into the habitat here, there are a few consumable items in our inventory right now, and you can only consume items when you're inside a structure that has an atmosphere, an interior atmosphere. So if we're inside the habitat, we can go back to our inventory and we can go to a consumable item and select that, and I can consume one of those items. So now if I go back to my home screen and go to my vitals, you'll see we started out this demo play session with 2,000 calories, and by eating those peas, we just gained an additional 70 calories. So, and all these other elements of your vitals management would be impacted as well, but we started the demo with everything basically maxed out, so you don't see the full impact of that. But yeah, so that's something that we're also working on is consumable items. And you might have noticed in the exterior scene there were some items that had the action button of deploy. And so deployable objects are something that we're hoping to have into the initial release of the early access version, where you'll be able to deploy something like a pop tent so that you could sleep outdoors in between a journey between habitats or something. But that's something that we're working on still and hope to have in the game soon. So yeah, that's consumable items, deployable items will be soon, and transferring items and management, all going very well. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and make sure to leave your comments and suggestions or thoughts in the comments. So thank you very much.